Hey everyone, let me ask you something. Have you ever looked around and realized that the people you used to spend every single day with, your high school friends, your college crew, maybe even your childhood best friends, they are just not really in your life anymore? Maybe you text every now and then, or maybe you still follow each other on Instagram, but it is just not really the same. And you may start wondering to yourself, did I do something wrong? Did we grow apart, or worse? Am I just alone now? And to be honest with you, most friendships fade in your 20s, and that is not a sign that something is broken. It is actually a sign that you are growing. So today I want to break down why this happens, why it is normal, and how to actually build the kinds of friendships that do last. So if you have ever felt guilty or confused about losing touch with people, this video is for you. Because I myself have experienced this, especially once I got out of college. The couple of years afterwards, I definitely started to notice this. It kind of felt similar to how I felt when I first realized my get-rich. Quick investment schemes were actually just making me poor. The initial shock, then the slow realization that I needed to change my approach. Starting out with, why do friendships feel so different in your 20s compared to growing up? Well, one of the first things that I feel like I did not even realize until I got older is that high school and college friendships, they are built on proximity. Like in high school, for example, you see your friends every single day, 5 days a week. You guys have different classes. You live close together. Maybe you go over to a certain buddy's house that lives 10 minutes away every weekend, or you guys are constantly hanging out because you all live near each other. And so that is part of the reason that you are friends, and college friendships are the same way, because you are all going to the same school. Even if you do not have the same classes, you might live in the dorms together or live in apartments that are nearby. Everybody is kind of near each other, so it is really easy to, be able to hang out. It could be a 5-10 minute drive, or it could even be walking distance. And so having that close proximity is one of the main reasons that you actually have these friendships, and I did not realize that until I got older. It is a bit like how I used to think all investment advice was good advice. Just because it was widely shared, I did not dig deeper to understand the underlying mechanics or the actual proximity to reliable information. And do not get me wrong, you can definitely have really good friendships even with distance, but it is a lot harder to maintain. And one thing that happens, whether it is graduating high school or college, is that people scatter. Like, for example, when I think of my core friend group, there were about 6 of us. Now, when I look back at that core group, we do not really hang out as much anymore. We do not really talk anymore. And the 6 of us who all grew up in the same town, only 2 of them live in the same city, and that is not even our hometown. One of them does live in the hometown, and then one moved away to a completely different state. I moved away to a completely different state, and so did the other one. So a lot of us have just kind of gone down different paths. Some people will move for jobs, some will get married, and some chase different lifestyles, for example. One of the guys in my friend group, he immediately got married. He did not go to college, he got married, he had kids, and the rest of us were, still going to college, kind of just trying to figure things out. And once people start to scatter, this is naturally going to create a gap that is kind of hard to bridge, especially when everybody is kind of juggling their own responsibilities. Like for me, in my normal week, I am kind of just sticking to my routine. And the only way I could actually hang out with one of these friends is if I flew back to my hometown or flew to one of the cities that they are currently living in. So I would actually have to kind of plan a trip out of it, which is totally fine. You can do that, but it is just a lot more effort compared to, before driving down 5-10 minutes down the road and getting to hang out. So part of the reason friendships feel so different in your 20s is because your environment changes. So your relationship changes, and that is okay. That is extremely normal. This scattering, it is not just physical distance. It is also a shift in priorities, much like how my investment priorities shifted dramatically. After I lost a chunk of my savings, initially I chased exciting short-term gains, often with friends who were doing the same. We were all in that phase of wanting to get rich quick. But then as I matured, and especially after those painful losses, my focus became stability, long-term growth, and understanding risk. Some of those old investment buddies, they are still chasing those volatile trends. Our paths diverged because our financial philosophies did. It is a natural evolution, both in friendships and in how you approach your money. And so the next thing I want to talk about is that there is kind of this myth of having lifelong friends. Like you will always hear about, people being lifelong best friends. Like they were best friends when they were 5 and they have been friends for decades. Now, kind of like what you see in different television shows where the same friend group hangs out forever. And do not get me wrong, that does happen for a lot of people. But in reality, most friends, they can be seasonal. They are not lifelong. Some people are meant to just be in your life just for a specific stage of your life, and that is okay. It is not a negative thing. For example, you may have some college friends that you guys partied a lot and that was what you did. And then when you graduated college, they were still partying and you did not really want to because maybe you were trying to focus on building a career or starting a family or chase different goals. And, they are going out to the bars and still getting hammered and trying to chase tail every week. Meanwhile, you are kind of trying to take a different path, and that is totally fine. And I feel like the sooner that you accept this truth, you will realize that it is more of an evolution thing. It is not that your friend is betraying you or you are betraying them. It is just that you guys are going down different paths. You might have different values and different goals. And that is totally okay. It reminds me of my early investment days where I believe certain stocks or crypto projects were lifelong holdings. I got emotionally attached, refusing to sell even when the market signals screamed otherwise because I thought we had this bond, this shared journey. But just like friendships, investments can be seasonal. Some serve a purpose for a specific period, helping you learn or grow in a certain way, and then it is time to let them go. Not because they are bad, but because your goals have changed. Holding on to a declining asset or a friendship that no longer aligns with your growth can be detrimental to your financial or emotional well-being. Letting go allows you to reallocate your resources, whether it is time, energy, or money, to more promising avenues. For example, that core group of friends that I had in high school, most of those guys, with the exception of one, I am still rooting for. I still, I want them to be happy. It is not like I am wishing ill will upon them. I want them to do well, but I just do not really talk to them anymore. And that is totally fine. Some of them just recently got engaged. And I know I am probably not going to get invited to the wedding, which sure, that would have been a letdown 3 or 4 years ago, but at the same time, we only text maybe once a year. And I also know that weddings are extremely expensive, and at the end of the day, we are still kind of supporting each other just from a distance. So that is just kind of how it goes. And again, not a big deal. So that is a little bit about the myth of lifelong friends. And I have even actually had the flip where somebody was kind of my friend for a long time, but then they are still kind of my friend. So like they were not very close to me, but I still talk to them to this day. I have a couple of friends like that, which is kind of cool actually, because those are the friends where you were like, wow, I've actually known you for almost 3 decades now. I have known you for 10, 15 plus years, 20 plus years. It is pretty cool. And so you can also have the flip of that where somebody you thought would be your friend for life is not, but somebody who you did not expect to be a really long-term friend still is. So there is always the flip side of that. It is like those unexpected investment opportunities. You might think you have a clear path for your portfolio, focusing on what everyone else talks about. But then you stumble upon a lesser-known stable investment that quietly performs well over years, becoming a consistent, reliable part of your financial life. It is not always the flashiest or most obvious choice that sticks around and truly supports your long-term goals. And then another thing I want to talk about is, why do friendships fade? I feel like the 3 biggest reasons, starting out with different priorities. So some people, and this was kind of the route I took, I was grinding away at my career. Some other people prioritize relationships. Some people prioritize travel or hobbies or just different things there. Like I said, I had one friend in our friend group where right when we got out of high school, 5 of us went to college, and he immediately did not. He did not go to college, which was totally fine. No judgment there, but he immediately found his wife, got married, and started having kids. And the rest of us were like, whoa, man, we are kind of going down a different route there, which it is. Okay. No judgment to him as long as he is happy and doing his thing. I am cool with it, but the rest of us were, just trying to get our bachelor's degrees. Meanwhile, this guy is already popping kids out. So we are definitely on, 2 different levels and different waves of life. And like I said before, for me, I have kind of just been focused on grinding my career, which is totally fine. I have really enjoyed that. But the cost of that is not being able to hang out as much. Like if I am spending a Friday night or a Saturday night making YouTube videos or trying to be productive and, my friends are out drinking every single weekend, we just do not really align, and that is okay. And again, I still do like to go out and occasionally do fun stuff like that, but I do not need to do it every single weekend repetitively. It just gets really tiring. And honestly, it just gets old for me after a while, like doing the exact same thing every single week and weekend. That really does not, grow you as a person. I feel like it's kind of boring after a while. But that is just me. This prioritization mirrors my own journey with money for a long time. My priority was aggressive growth, chasing any investment that promised a quick buck, often with high risk. I was obsessed with the idea of beating the market. But after hitting rock bottom with a few bad calls, my priorities shifted dramatically. Now it is about steady, consistent growth, protecting my capital, and avoiding the pitfalls that ensnared me before. My focus is on understanding the fundamentals, not chasing fleeting trends. This new financial philosophy means I might not be as excited by the same investment conversations as some of my earlier acquaintances, and that is perfectly fine. We are just on different financial wavelengths now. So that is the first reason I think that friendships fade, is just different priorities, and that is totally okay. Different strokes for different folks. I get it. The next thing is geography. Like if you are moving to a new city, whether it is, 30 minutes away or maybe a couple hours away, this is definitely going to reduce the amount of times that you guys can hang out with each other. Like for example, one of my really close friends from high school, I did not see for a couple years. And earlier this year, I flew hung out with him. We went snowboarding for the weekend. It was a great time. But, I am probably not going to see him again for another year or two. We still talk and text and Snapchat, but it is definitely a lot different when you are hanging out with the whole group of guys versus just talking to them on FaceTime or Snapchat or whatever that may be. So geography is definitely another one, like I said earlier. When you were growing up and you were all going to the same high school, we could all drive 15 minutes to one person's house because his parents were gone for the weekend, hang out, have a great night. But that is not really an option anymore, even if the entire 6 guys in my friend group, even if we all still talk. One of them lives in New York, I live in the South, one of them lives in Utah, like they are all over the place. And so it is just extremely hard, especially to get a bunch of people who have different schedules to be able to plan something and be able to meet up all at the same place. It definitely takes a lot more energy and effort there. This geographic scattering also affects how you perceive and manage your financial environment. When I was younger and focused on local, easy to access investments, my financial world felt small and familiar, but as I started exploring broader markets, learning about global economics, and understanding how different regions impact investment opportunities, my financial perspective expanded dramatically. It is harder to keep track of everything, requiring more effort and research, but it also opens up a world of new possibilities, much like how maintaining long-distance friendships requires more intentional planning, but the connection can still be valuable. And that kind of leads me to my third reason, is it is kind of an energy investment like friendships. Like anything in life, they require effort. If one person stops putting in energy, the relationship naturally fades. And so I have a perfect example of this. I had a buddy who was in that core friend group with me. Me and him went to the same college. We were in the dorms together. Freshman year, we ended up living together again. Sophomore year, junior and senior year, we still hung out, just not as much. But, we were still pretty good friends. And then I noticed after we graduated, I would text him and he would reply. Do not get me wrong, but it was always me who was texting him first. Or for example, his birthday would come up and I would text him happy birthday, right? I literally text him the day before just to prove that, hey, I did not see this on social media. I genuinely know your birthday because I am a real homie. And my birthday is only 9 days later and he would never text me happy birthday, even though mine was just barely over a week later. And so for me, I kind of had this realization of, look, I am always the one reaching out to this guy. I do not think he ever reaches out to me. And, it is not like I am rooting against him. It is not like I hope that he does not have a happy or a great life. I really do hope he does, but I am not going to be the one to only reach out to you 24 divided by 7, because at the end of the day, a friendship is a two-way street. If I reach out to you, and I am not saying we got to sit there and keep tabs on each other, like, hey, I reached out to you 3 times, you did not reach out to me. But if I am the only one reaching out, it is quite a bit of energy on my end of things, and it does not seem like you are really interested in maintaining that friendship. So I am not going to sit there and beg to be your friend at the end of the day. That is just kind of how I am. This concept of energy investment hits close to home with my investment journey. Early on, I poured endless energy into chasing every hot stock tip, every fleeting trend, putting in so much effort for often minimal or even negative returns. It was a one-sided relationship where I was constantly feeding into a system that rarely gave back. I learned the hard way that smart investing is also a two-way street. You put in the research, the due diligence, the patience, and the market over time. Rewards you. If you are constantly chasing and gambling, you are expending immense energy with little reciprocation. It is about understanding where to allocate your emotional and financial energy for the best, most sustainable outcomes. And I have even had the opposite, where I have a friend that maybe they are reaching out to me a lot and I am not getting back to them as much. And so that is something I try to hold myself accountable for, and at least check in with them and be like, hey man, I have been super busy lately. Let us hang out sometime in the next week or two or sometime in the next month. I do not want you to feel like I am neglecting you or do not want to hang out. I have just been super busy because of X, Y, and Z. And normally if they are a real friend, they will get it. It is not that big of a deal. So those are the kind of 3 main reasons why friendships fade. Now, I actually want to talk about why I think this is a good thing. Losing friends will actually free up space and time for new friends who align more with your current stage of life. You are going to become more selective, and the friendships you do keep, they are going to be deeper, not wider. So for example, I would rather have 3 to 5 really close friends that are dependable than 12 surface level friendships where I cannot really trust them. I cannot rely on them. If something goes really wrong in my life, I cannot give them a call at 2 a.m. I want people that I can really be ride or dies and be very loyal to each other. That is something I am huge on when it comes to my friendships. This shift from wider to deeper also applies to my financial portfolio. I used to spread my investments across countless small speculative ventures, hoping one would hit big. It was a wider but very shallow approach. After my financial setbacks, I realized the value of a concentrated Deeper portfolio focusing on fewer higher quality assets that I thoroughly understand. It is about quality over quantity, whether in friendships or investments. I want a few strong, reliable pillars in my financial life, just as I want a few strong, reliable friends in my personal life. This allows for more focused attention, better risk management, and ultimately more stable growth. Another reason this is actually a good thing is it also teaches you independence, being able to do your own thing. Again, do not isolate yourself, try to maintain some form of a social life. But I feel like being able to do your own thing and be productive and grow in your own ways is a key part of building confidence in your 20s. So again, it is okay if you do lose some friends or you start talking to people a lot less, because there is room for you to make new friends. And so how do you actually build stronger adult friendships? This is something that I actually have found to be a lot harder than I thought, especially being in our 20s. The first thing I would say is to be very intentional. Friends do not just happen. You have to reach out, you have to plan, you have to follow up,